Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. This is what if the Roman Empire came to modern day. This is based off the reference I got, so it is a little inaccurate. That's because the reference was a little off. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's start with cleaning up some borders. So firstly, the Romans declare war on the rest of Romania, Moldova, Transnistria, I think it's called. And yeah, that's Romania, Serbia maybe, and Hungary. Why have I put them in red? I just realised. No. Anyway, let me quickly change the colours. Anyway, there we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, the first Roman legions. Oh wait, I should have probably mentioned at the start of the video. And all alliances are off, so there's no no backlash for now until the alliances are back. Well, start to form. But anyway, let's actually start the war. Roman legions push into Romania, pushing up. Oh, I also forgot to mention this. Rome has the military of all of the countries it has of modern day comparisons. This implies Romania would beat them. Anyway, this area of Romania fully falls over as Rome marches into Moldova. Over here, the Romans push into the rest of Serbia and this chunk of Romania, starting a offensive into Hungary and fully taking this area of all the rest of Romania over here. Romans march into the Hungarian capital, which is around there. Turns out, it's literally on the border. But anyway, they got it now. Leading to Hungary, quickly falling as they march further into Moldova. Moldova starts to capitulate as they fall, leading to the Denmark Transnistria, which is barely autonomous, falling over. I'm going to cut to after the peace treaty, so see you after then. Anyway, as you can guess, it is just for annexation. So over here, the Romans start to militarize the Dutch border. However, they unite with Germany, as this population is German, I'm pretty sure at that point. But anyway, seeing this, they move their sights down to the Middle East after hearing about their mass oil supplies. They declare war on Jordan, the rest of Syria, and the rest of Iraq. Anyway, as Roman legions enter the Middle East, they start pushing away from the Mesopotamian area, taking the rest of Syria, starting to push into the mountainous areas of Iraq, pretty much just taking the Iran border before the Iranians can. They push down the coast, taking the rest of Kuwait, and then eventually capitulating Iraq as it's kind of already dead. As they start to push into Jordan, Jordan surrenders and it's mostly desert again. So I'll cut to another peace treaty, but it's just annexation. I've drew the borders, so you don't need to watch that. Anyway, before the Romans can expand, Iran takes this chunk of Azerbaijan, as Turkey can't really detect them as they are Roman. Anyway, Rome declares war on the rest of the Caucasus, which, bear in mind these two sections are Russian occupied areas. So Russia is seeing this attack, and let me get a colour. Let's do green. They declare war on the Caucasus as well. As Russia joins only because the Romans are attacking, the Ukrainians will go first. So they push into the rest of Azerbaijan, and I forgot what it's called, Armenia, as they fully capitulate. A small push is made into Georgia, however the Russians do start to push, taking this upper area and a bit there. As the Romans continue to push up, they get around there, before the Russians start a quick offensive, taking the rest of Georgia. Tensions are high between these two, but no war is breaking out yet. So I'll cut to another peace treaty and see you then. This is the borders. I have followed the province map, which is around there. So Russia annexes this northern bit, while Romania annexes the southern bit of Georgia, and Rome annexes the rest of the other countries. Anyway, the last area which needs to be cleaned is Africa. I've done this, so I don't need to mess around with it again. But Morocco is left out, as they do still have quite a lot of valuable stuff here, so they are actually a strong country compared to most of these desert states. Actually, I'll zoom out because this won't be long. Anyway, Roman legions push down the coast and the Nile, which is around here, I believe, around this lake, taking it. They push, taking the rest of Tunisia. As they do lack some troops, the Liberians do manage to take some coastal land back around here, which won't be for long, but like the Romans aren't really protecting that. So the Romans continue into Algeria, kind of just taking the rest of the valuable land, so they surrender. Followed up by Romans pushing into Liberia, and also taking this bit of Egypt, kind of leading to Egypt also surrendering. Anyway, now it's the wrong colour. The Romans start to liberate the land that was stolen off them, as they fully kick out Liberia and start an offensive into their lands, which leads to them also surrendering. Seeing this, countries like Morocco decide to try to get good relations with Rome, and also do a little invasion into West Africa, which is successful, as I believe Morocco is the only one really defending them. Not Morocco, Algeria. Anyway, I'm gonna click through the borders, but you can probably guess what it's gonna be. Yeah. I'm gonna cut just so I can do the borders. It is just for annexation, as I showed. But this is the borders now. The only really population zones that they really annex is around here. Maybe a bit there. A bit here. A bit around the river, which they didn't already have. That was like probably like a million people, or not even a million, like a couple thousand people, as it's mostly desert. Oh, I forgot to uncolour Russia. No, not the borders. There you go. Anyway, as Rome has officially run out of people they can just attack, they move back up to, well, they look towards the Middle East, as they declare war on Saudi Arabia. attempting to kind of like take this bit here. Nope, I forgot to deselect. Anyway, the Roman legions kind of push from the border to ensure the Saudis don't do anything. After they do that, they start to move down the coast, but they do start to run out of resources. So they start stealing trucks and stuff from like the UK and France as they start to push down a lot further. I'll turn on major cities and capitals. I'll turn on capitals. But anyway, they take the major settlement or cities around here and push down, meeting up with Yemen, which they declare war on as well. Including this, declare war on these two. There's like all 1 pixel. Yeah, I'll just sort it out on the piece trade here. But they're gone. And then they declare war on the UAE and Oman, clearly trying to take the peninsula for themselves. Anyway, they start to, let me center up, they start to push into Yemen, taking their capital. They take the Strait, not forcing any restrictions yet, but plans are starting to be made. A push towards the capital of Saudi Arabia is made, as Qatar fully folds with this island as well. The UAE is probably one of the hardest countries to invade so far, as they are quite wealthy, but the capital is then taken as Roman troops start to flood into the nation. They didn't surrender, but the entire land was occupied. The push to the capital is successful, as they start to consolidate some land around it to ensure they can't be kicked out. As another push to the Oman capital is made, eventually taking it as they continue down the coast. A further push is made into Arabia, as millions of Roman troops start to push in, as they really have nothing else to take. As it is mostly desert, there's barely any forces there, but they also do focus on the coastal regions and regions near other countries, leading to the surrender of Saudi Arabia. As Saudi Arabia collapses, Yemen is pushed into with the same amount of troops. And eventually starts to fall alongside Saudis, as the coastline is slowly pushed upon and then cut off from Oman, leading to their surrender. Oman, seeing this, thinks about surrender as their citizens are being massacred, but tries to hold on a bit longer, but then surrenders later on. In the peace treaty, we'll have full annexation, and I'll quickly draw up, remove the borders. I have now cleaned up the borders, so there is no borders, but it's like full annexation. And now Rome has most of the world's oil. Yeah. Anyway, Roman troops up to some East and European countries, such as Ukraine, as they declare war on said Ukraine. They also declare war on Slovakia. However, the Czech Republic does not get attacked, and they're pretty happy about that. Zoom in. Anyway, a push is made, quickly occupying. Oh wait, that's Russian, isn't it? Anyway, a quick push is made into this region, or the coastal regions, and also around the old Romanian and Moldovan borders. And so Dacia is quickly cut off as Roman troops flood in, fully taking the region. Russia, yet again, gets involved, this time dragging in Belarus. As they both join, no arsonistic, the Ukrainians surprisingly start to fall faster as Russian troops flood in to the area. Rome also floods up, taking these lakes, a bit more land, meeting up with the Russian push. It is very tense that no fire is exchanged. The Russians take the Ukrainian capital of Kiev and continue pushing downwards as the Romans start to speed up their advance, starting to actually try to cut off the Russians with their expansion. After a few weeks, the borders are left like this. So a peace treaty is agreed to be signed in Belarus. However, something happens. The Romans take over the area where they agreed to sign, which is just outside the capital, pushing to take the capital. Turn on major cities. I don't know how to turn them off. They're not major, I mean capitals. As Roman troops start to push into the occupied areas of Ukraine and Crimea. Russian troops are shocked and surprised, so it takes a while for them to respond as they start to flood into old Georgian lands and a bit of Russian Caucasian lands. The Romans push down, meeting up with their actual territory down here, creating a little buffer as the troops in the Belarusian capital start to push out, but then kind of hold there as they wait for more reinforcements that are starting to arrive as a spearhead meets up surrounding these troops attempt to flood into Poland and Lithuania, but they blocked them off. This section of Belarus fully falls, leading to this area of Russia, or the occupation zone, falling. A push is started from the Belarusian capital to Moscow, as quite successful, but does stop there, as the Romans move to take the rest of Ukraine, which is fully successful. As they flood into the border region, they take mass casualties as Russia has fully fortified this area because the Ukraine war that didn't happen, but are planning to do it. And Rome pushes up, settling a massive amount of troops, using this shock to push further, taking the Russian capital. Another push is made up here to meet up with Kazakhstan to try to cut off the Caucasus, but they do manage to hold here. However, this is mainly just to evacuate troops, as the Romans start to mass push, trying to take the Russian oil supply. The rest of Belarus falls over, as a push is made to whatever St. Petersburg is called nowadays, which is successful, as they meet up with the Finnish border, circling a ton of troops here which all surrender. They're not executed for being on the wrong side. The push eventually down here is made, well, finished. As this area is fully encircled, they push up, taking the coast, and start to push around the Kazakh border. Why did I say Kazakh? Oh, it is Kazakh. It's Kazakhstan, yeah. Anyway, they do this successfully, encircling these troops, ensuring they can't get out. As they slowly kill them all, like, massacre them for being, like, on the wrong side. Kazakhstan witnesses this from the other side of the border and tells the entire world about this massacre. No one responds, as barely anyone likes Russia. So Russia keeps getting bullied as more major cities are taken. They start to collapse. This is when, let's get their major cities up, the Romans start to push just towards major cities, trying to take as much as possible to collapse the Russians. As you see, it's easy as the Russian army is gone. As these major cities fall, Roman troops push in between the pushes, encircling troops, like massacring them, as lots of Russian troops start to flood into Kazakhstan and Finland and other nations nearby. The Romans fully encircle two sections, which do manage to meet up, but then are encircled, leading to a few dying there, and many dying here. Russia then later surrenders. We don't want to do full annexation for obvious reasons, but there is going to be a lot of land exchanged. So I'll see you after the peace treaty. Anyway, this is the peace treaty. Guys, like most of actual useful Russia is annexed, with 3 puppets being made: a north one, a central one, and this one here. The rest of Russia is kind of what's left. So that's like more just a tribal area now. And the government can only really be here and like across the borders. Let me just draw this on. The border's like probably that, and the rest of this is just like doing whatever the hell they want. But the government probably been set up like here. But anyway, Russia and the surrounding nations are gone. Oh, also, I forgot to do Kaliningrad, but that's Polish. Seeing this, the rest of Europe decides to make an alliance. As if they don't, they'll probably die. One by one. They at least want to like survive. Like try to win as best as they can. Well, the United Scottish and United Kingdoms of Scotland and Northern Ireland decide to join the alliance for the same reasons, followed by the Danish possession of Greenland, as they really have no choice. Unless they want to be American, I guess. Anyway, that's the first alliance, the European alliance, followed by the Russian alliance. No, it is not the world, which is that. Well, Kazakhstan, because they're on the border, Iran, China, and some country. Oh, let's just do the entire of the Middle East. Oh, why did I say Middle East? I mean European area. No, Central Asia. As I'm pretty sure most of them, well, all of them have good relations with Russia. Let's do colouring in on the islands. Seeing this, well, the two mega alliances forming, they decide to chill a bit. Nah, they just go straight to Africa. They declare war on Morocco, Sudan, and Eritrea and also Djibouti trying to secure this trade point. But it's only really useful to them as like the European countries to them. Anyway, they start down here. I've also they make a landing across the strait, taking the rest of Djibouti and fully locking off the strait. And I don't know why I said the rest, but taking Djibouti. They mass push into Eritrea and start a push into Sudan. And we get the river there. They start push down here as they take the the border region and a bit of the coast. They take like all of Eritrea, continue down the Nile, taking the White Nile and the Blue Nile, and then finishing off the other countries, or the other sections of the river, leading to surround Sudan basically being no people. So, anyway, it's going to be full annexation over here, but we have another section of the war to do. Let's say they also, to be honest, Morocco would probably own this at this point, as Spain isn't really there. But we also kind of have Portugal up here, if you realise. Portugal wasn't dead. Anyway, a mass push from Algeria's was made to secure the coast and northern region. They cut off a massive section here, eventually doing the same things they did in Russia. Some people do actually somehow manage to get out and tell the international world, but it is too late as they continue pushing down the coast. Roman fleets do manage to take these islands as they continue down, eventually leading to the surrender. But seeing this and hearing the news of the fleeing Sudanese countries, fleeing troops from Morocco and some of here, an alliance is formed in Africa. Basically, all of this area joins. Kind of stuffing around here as I don't really see a threat of Rome. Is the peace treaty with full annexation, and also these guys all are lying. As Rome is fully surrounded at this point, they decide to attack one of the alliances, which is the European one, as that is the weakest. But after they declare war on them, the Russian alliance joins, followed by the African alliance, as they all see this as a chance to retake lands. And why is there it's weird. They all see it as a chance to retake lands and kind of like liberate their other countries. But anyway, we'll start with the Roman push, as they did kind of do it first. A massive push is made into southern Germany, and quickly taking Czech Republic and the rest of the Netherlands. The push is also made into Poland, quickly pushing far into its lands, as the Romans cut the Baltics off from the alliance, leading to them kind of just disappearing. Many troops do manage to actually flee countries, but anyone left in there is dead. A small push is made into Finland, with their puppet state as well, but that push doesn't really go far. However, in Scotland, they do manage to push down a bit and take the Isle of Man. Over here, should have probably kept them the original colours, but they're blue now. A push is made into all of the Russian puppets, As the Russian government returns, they are a little angry as they don't like the dictatorship, but they prefer over the Romans. So many people do start to actually help the Russians, leading to quite a lot of the area going over to them. Small pushes is made into the ex-Russian land that's fully Roman, but that's a lot harder to take as most of the rebellions are disappeared, also known as dead. Anyway, a push is made into Azerbaijan and Iraq by Iran, and as troops down here from the last attack, they do manage to push into South Sudan and Ethiopia. A mutual agreement is kind of pushed to not fight in the desert, as neither of them really want to die. These are hot heats, but a push is made around here, secure the new land, and to take a little bit of the country there. Going back up to Europe, the Romans do continue to push, taking more of Poland and Germany, eventually taking Warsaw and Berlin. Leading to basically the kind of surrendering, but most of their troops do flee up north, kind of making a falsified border here. Over in Britain, eyes on Phil. The island is fully liberated, as none of them really like the Romans. It mimics what happened in real life. Then the Finnish do start to get troops from all of the surrendered countries and Nordics, leading to them not Estonia as well. Fully liberating their territories. And the Norwegian territories are also being stolen, starting a push into this Russian territory up here. Eventually leading to this area, surrendering, as they want to be part of the Finnish, or they want to be part of Finland. So if they surrender to the Finnish, they should become Finland. A push is made, taking whatever St. Petersburg is called, as the Russians do start to take this as a chance to push, meeting up and helping the Finnish troops to re-liberate this area. The Kazakhstan and Central Asian armies do start to push up, eventually taking this lake and fully taking up here. A push is made to try to cut off the Roman Empire, kind of just split it in two between Asia and Africa and Europe, as there's a gap, but that is not successful. However, a push is made into this area of Sudan, and the armies are pushed back a bit. The Roman commanders in Europe tell all of their troops to push into Denmark, and if they don't, they will die, leading to Denmark fully capitulating. But mass troop losses on the Roman side. As the Roman fleet starts to flood into the Baltics, all of the islands are kind of just surrounded and taken, leading to small naval landings across most of the coasts. But all of them are pushed back from all of the armies that have fled. Britain manages to steal some Roman ships and land in Normandy, starting a push around and liberating Brittany. The British might be getting some help from one particular country, but for now, this is what Europe looks like. Down in Arabia, and I deselected that country, colour, and a landing is made up here and here, and Djibouti is liberated. As Roman armies start to get pushed out of Ethiopia. Back up in Iran, we have them pushing further into Iraq, kind of taking the river around here. Pretty much got it. Pushing up further, kind of cutting off the Romans from Arabia. Let me turn off the rivers, as most of the stuff is kind of around here. Like leads to it. There's like a few roads down here, I would assume. Or major roads, so tons of roads. But they do start a push trying to cut them off from the coast. A few landings is made across this coast, which eventually leads to it fully falling, as all Central Asian troops start to flood into the area. This push is continued, then curving down a bit to avoid the Roman armies that are starting to push up from above, eventually reaching the coast. A wave of troops flood down here to kind of push them back, fully retaking the Caucasus oil. They do manage to push the Roman troops back a bit, taking it back up to around there, as these two puppet countries surrender fully. As they start to flood into the Roman countries, backstabbing them. Roman Empire. Absolutely disobeying the truce, not the mutual agreement. The Africans push into the desert, taking around that as the Romans didn't really have a lot of armies there. But then raids are started across the Nile, leading to all of these Roman troops leaving to go defend the Nile. Or go to defend the trade or the resource routes. They are then followed by the African armies that are fully starting to arrive, as most of Eritrea is liberated, leading to most off camera. Leading to most of Yemen being liberated most of the coast of Yemen being liberated. This push continues, eventually reaching the coast, cutting off the new lands, leading to recently occupied people rebelling and killing all the Romans, like they did to their people. As the Romans start to kind of abandon some areas up here, the pushes do start to intensify. They are fully pushed out of this area, leading to them starting to push into West Africa, or Morocco, depending what you call it. Eventually taking back the southern area and liberating the islands, which they may use later. A push is made like the one made by Libya, taking the coast back, which is kind of useless as Rome controls the Med. But anyway, they continue. Some landings are started by the Nordic countries to retake some islands, which does lead to the entrance being liberated and then blowing up some bridges up here. As the Russian and Finnish floods do continue. Yet again, now the off camera. There you go. As Russian civilians start to rise up. Followed by the Russian troops, Estonia rises up, followed by Latvia, and then Lithuania. Eventually stopped by the troops starting to flood up, but quickly they do get their armies back, pushing into Russia. This push up here is continued as more American troops start to flood in. As America officially joins the war. Like, it's going to be useless to go over there, so I'll just leave it like that. They continue down here, eventually reaching back up to the Netherlands and starting to liberate the German state. They then cut off the Romans from Denmark, eventually leading to the Thor Peninsula being liberated. A landing is made here, taking the island and some land, eventually leading the Roman commanders to order a full push, trying to push the Americans and British out, as they do. Eventually, this is semi-successful, pushing them back to Normandy, but mass deaths is recorded, basically halving the Roman army. As the Nordics start to hear of this mass death, they fully push into Poland, liberating it within a matter of months. Then Germany, a week later, is starting to be liberated again. Matter of weeks. The Czech Republic, a few days. The Romans have fully started to collapse. Now, the troops start to flood into the borders, just seeing surrendering troops and civilians, troops in cages as well, from civilians overthrowing them. Mass area. France starts to be liberated by the Germans and British, as the area starts to kind of get a little, protesty. Crimea is liberated, leading to Ukraine starting to rise up. Followed by, in Africa, the push to take the coast being amplified, pushing around just to pushing the Romans back to Egypt and starting to push them out of the lands over here. Like that. The push in Arabia is intensified as more troops start to flood in, eventually reaching the count of a few million of people that are willing to fight. A landing is made across the Hormuz, reopening the strait, as Qatar is also liberated, leading to the UAE, Oman, and Yemenese governments returning. Up here, the push to the Mediterranean is also completed, cutting off the Romans from their central, Middle East, starting to fall. Palestinian area falls over, leading to them being cut off yet again, leading to this area surrendering, followed by this area as civilians overthrow the Roman troops that are commanding them. The navy starts to flood in through the Suez as the islands that are owned by the Romans start to be taken, especially in Greece, as more troops flood out of the mountains and into Turkey to get nice cuts. Anyway, they flood, eventually fully kick them out of the non-Turkish land in Asia, as a kind of linking push between the Europeans and the Russians are made, surrounding these troops, leading to them surrendering or being killed, but not as brutally as the Romans did it. The push is continued around here, as the Romans start to abandon the area, leading to the strait here, rolling over to Russia. Africa is abandoned, followed by several landings of state on the Iberian Peninsula from these islands and the newly taken area of Morocco, which leads to Portugal, kind of like revolting away, and a bit of Spain, which leads to a massive push starting to occur. The islands over here are taken, as Sicily is taken, which leads to the Balkans starting to kind of revolt away. Rome does not surrender yet, but then Rome is taken. You can't be Roman Empire without Rome. Mass civilian revolts start to happen across Italy as areas start to fall over, as Italy kind of just becomes liberated. As the capital region is gone, the rest of the areas just leave. A great peace. Anyway, I'll show you the peace treaty, which is going to be... I'm going to leave Rome alive, but it's going to be tiny compared to this. Anyway, so that's the peace treaty. Okay, this is the peace treaty. Eritrea is annexed by Ethiopia. Other than that, this area of Africa is just left. The south of Arabia, or the south of the Middle East, is returned. However, the north area, being mostly Roman at the start, is split between a new Levant country and Iran and Saudi Arabia. A Caucasus country is made, and Turkey is small, so followed by small Greece and kind of big Bulgaria. They do lose a province, but they gain access to the strait. Romania, let me zoom in a bit actually. Romania does lose a bit up here, but does gain the entire Moldova. Ukraine does lose some land over to Poland, but does gain this region here. Belarus is moved back a bit, with them gaining some Russian land. The capital's around there, the black dot, white dot. A new country is found here, which I believe would probably be one of the puppet governments that actually joined this side. And Finland does manage to get the land they wanted, with Norway getting a bit up here. And Germany gets Austria, or German lands, with Hungary getting a chunk out of it. Czechoslovakia does reform, so the Czech Republic can help Slovakians rebuild. This will probably unform a few years later. These guys to expand a bit, the Baltics. And over here is where the big changes mainly are. France doesn't exist, it's just very small. England does own Normandy and Brittany, but pretty small on the British Isles. Wales and Cornwall are two separate countries, and Scotland expands a bit, still keeping Northern Ireland. The Netherlands is set free, or at least as they only joined Germany to stop the Romans, and does unify the lowlands. Down here in Iberia, Spain does manage to get this to keep these islands. Portugal expands a bit. In Africa, we have West Africa being split between this country and Morocco, with Morocco also getting some land out of Algeria. We'll leave Rome till last, of course. Algeria, it loses a lot of coast, with Liberia pretty much being returned bar some coast. Eritrea, I think that's called. No, it's not. Tunisia does not exist. Cyprus is given to Turkey fully. And if I didn't mention this, Greece is a different country. It's just a lot small. Egypt does manage to get some land from their original borders, up here in the Palestinian area. And I think that might be it. yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, let's go to oh yeah, Switzerland is extended a bit because Switzerland's cool. Anyway, back in what's it up here? So the countries that didn't gain land or lost land can get reparations. Rome is kind of kept, with them keeping like Carthage, which is Tunisia, a bit of Algeria and Liberia. Them keeping these two islands, a chunk of France, majority of Italy, which I think I gave some to Switzerland. Pretty much, oh yeah, all of Yugoslavia, plus a bit of all of Algeria and just wait. Albania. With them getting all of Albania, a bit of Greece, and a province from Bulgaria. However, they do owe like millions in debt to like the US, China, Russia, all of the above. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you want to see more content like this, comment ideas I can do, and like stuff like that. And hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.